Introducing this video's sponsor, Flexispot, offering the perfect desk for a modern lifestyle. Are you ready to upgrade your workspace? Meet Flexispot, your go-to destination for high-quality standing desks. Flexispot allows you to customize your desk to suit your personal style and needs. Select your preferred color and size of desktop, and choose the desk frame that fits your taste. Their desks feature a smart keypad, making height adjustments effortless and convenient. Say goodbye to uncomfortable working positions. With Flexispot, you can seamlessly transition from sitting to standing, promoting better posture and increased productivity. Assembling your Flexispot desk is quick and hassle-free, ensuring you can start enjoying its benefits in no time. Join the growing number of individuals who've discovered the advantages of a standing desk. Boost your productivity and transform the way you work with Flexispot. Visit their store today and experience the Flexispot difference. For more information, click the link in the description box. That way, Flexispot will know you came from here. I want to thank Flexispot for their support of this channel. Welcome back, I'm that Chemist. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some cursed molecules. What is it that makes a molecule cursed? Oftentimes when we're talking about a cursed molecule, what I mean when I say cursed is that these molecules just have something that irks me. They just rub you the wrong way. Normally in our tier list, we like to show you guys what the 2D molecules look like. But in this tier list, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to show you what the space-filling models of these molecules actually look like. And if you like the new design format, make sure you let us know down in the comments. Maybe you've accidentally drawn a carbon with too many things connected before, or maybe you've drawn a triple bond which didn't quite look like it would be happy. Those types of things would be examples of what I consider cursed. Another good example of what I consider cursed is 1,3-bis-phosphoglyceric acid. 1,3-bis-phosphoglyceric acid is a 3-carbon organic molecule present in most, if not all, living organisms. This compound primarily exists as a metabolic intermediate in both glycolysis during respiration and in the Calvin cycle during photosynthesis. This compound is in the transitional stage between glycerate 3-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate during the fixation and reduction of carbon dioxide. This might not look particularly cursed to you, but to me as a chemist, when I look at this, I see this phosphorus anhydride piece, and that is not something we normally see. We don't ever normally see an anhydride between a carboxylic acid and a phosphoric acid, and in addition to that, we also have an organophosphate at the end of the molecule. This is rather cursed to me, but when we compare this to some of the other molecules on this tier list, I don't think it's super cursed. I think that this one can probably go right into B tier. The next molecule on this tier list is Novex 7700, also known as Novex 7700. This compound is a hydrofluoroether, as part of the molecule is entirely hydro, that is, it has hydrogens coming off of the carbon, and the other part of the molecule is fluorinated. In this case, it's also perfluorinated, which means every potential carbon has as many fluorines as physically possible. Hydrofluoroethers are used as industrial solvents, but they also find use in thermal applications, such as in the cooling of servers as heat transfer fluids and as refrigerants. We actually previously discussed hydrofluoroethers on the channel in a video discussing my research where I used hydrofluoroethers to make something called perfluoroalkoxides. We also discussed hydrofluoroether-based anesthetics. So when I look at hydrofluoroethers, they're fairly cursed as they are because they're perfluoro compounds, also known as PFAS. Novex 7700 is one of the most cursed compounds ever. I think that this can definitely go right into S tier. The next molecule on our tier list is Alloxan. Alloxan is a chemical that was used in the production of the purple dye Murexid, discovered in 1776. Alloxan was originally obtained by the oxidation of uric acid by nitric acid. It can also be prepared through the oxidation of barbituric acid by chromium trioxide. This comes from the same root as barbiturates. If you haven't heard of barbiturates before, they're an interesting class of drugs that maybe we'll eventually talk about on the channel.
Tamoxylin barbibutanol.
As I was saying, Alloxan is a toxic glucose analog which is able to selectively destroy insulin-producing cells in the pancreas when administered to rodents and many other animal species. This causes a disease known as Alloxan diabetes in affected animals, with characteristics that are similar to type 1 diabetes in humans. Alloxan is selectively toxic to insulin-producing pancreatic beta cells because it preferentially accumulates in beta cells through uptake via the GLUT2 glucose transporter. Alloxan, in the presence of intracellular thiols, generates reactive oxygen species with its reduction product, dialuric acid. To me, I think Alloxan is fairly cursed because it has 4 carbonyls, despite only having a 6-membered ring. 4 of the centers of this ring have carbonyls, and there's 3 carbonyls right next to each other. That's extremely cursed to me. For that reason, I think Alloxan probably belongs in A tier, because it's fairly cursed. And hey, it also starts with an A. The next molecule is Asparagusic acid. If you've watched up to this point in the video, you get to hear us talk about urine as a reward. I hope that doesn't piss you off.
Also not for human consumption, but that's about it.
Wait, what about those?
What is it?
Asparagusic acid is found in asparagus, and it's believed to be the metabolic precursor to odorous sulfur compounds responsible for the distinct smell of urine, which has long been associated with eating asparagus. I personally know that if I've eaten asparagus, if I'm taking a leak 30 to 40 minutes later, I can already smell the asparagus there. If you have any asparagus pee stories, make sure you leave them down in the comments, and maybe they'll get featured in a future pee-themed compilation. Can't believe I'm promising to do this, guys. Like, some of you better leave them down, otherwise I don't know why I'm asking for you to do this, but if enough of you do that, I think we have to make a compilation on it. I think that's how this works, right? That's how this works, right, guys? Back to the tier list. Asparagusic acid was originally isolated from an aqueous extract of Asparagus officinalis, which is a spring vegetable. Observations that asparagus have had an effect on the urine have been known since 1702. Louis Lemerre noted a powerful and disagreeable smell in the urine. There's another similar compound known as lipoic acid. This has another disulfide linkage. This is a very similar structure. Asparagusic acid is cursed because it has a 5-membered ring containing 2 sulfurs in it. This is a cyclic disulfide. That's not a thing you normally see in synthetic chemistry. We're going to have to put this into C tier. I think that makes the most sense because C tier is green. The next molecule is beclobuvir. You know that this is an antiviral because it ends in vir. Vir for viral. This is an antiviral drug that's used for the treatment of hepatitis C virus infection that's been studied in clinical trials. Beclobuvir acts as an NS5B RNA polymerase inhibitor. Beclobuvir has a number of different cursed motifs, such as this cyclopropane group, this bicycloamide group, as well as a pentacyclic indole with a pendant cyclohexyl group. And finally, we have an acyl sulfonyl imide with an additional dimethylamino group on it. This is not your typical molecule. This can go right into S tier. Up next, we have Psychocin. Psychocin is a carcinogenic and neurotoxic glycoside found in cycads, such as Psychus revoluta or Zamia pumila. Symptoms of poisoning include vomiting, diarrhea, weakness, seizures, and hepatotoxicity. In metabolic conditions, psychocin is hydrolyzed into glucose and methylazoxymethanol, MAM. Methylazoxymethanol is able to decompose into formaldehyde and diazomethane, which are both very toxic compounds. Psychocin is able to induce hepatotoxicity and Zamia staggers, a fatal nervous disease affecting cattle resulting from grazing on the leaves or other parts of cycads. Now, in terms of psychocin, if I just showed you this on a typical presentation slide, you wouldn't even believe that this exists. This has got a diazo group with an oxide. A diazo and oxide isn't something I've ever even encountered in my research. And this is made by a plant. So, thanks biology. A brief moment ago, I mentioned methylazoxymethanol. While cycads produce psychocin, they can also produce methylazoxymethanol acetate. This is another similar molecule, except instead of the whole sugar motif, we just have an acetate group. I think that psychocin and methylazoxymethanol acetate, MAM, are both fairly similar in terms of being cursed. These structures both look like things that should not exist, so why don't we put both of them into S tier? Some of these molecules might seem like they're a dime a dozen. Diminazene doesn't have anything to do with dimes, but it does start with dime. Diminazene is an anti-infective medication for animals that is sold under a variety of brand names. It's effective against certain protozoa, such as Babesia, Trypanosoma, and Cytozoan. This drug might also be effective against certain bacteria, including Brucella and Streptococcus. Now, in terms of the structure of diminazene, it has a diamidine as well as a triazine. When this is formulated as a drug, it's sold as the azaturate salt, which is N-acetylglycine. This is a fairly cursed structure. It does have a triazine, 3 nitrogens connecting 2 benzene rings. That's pretty wild. I think we could probably put this into like B tier. It's fairly cursed, but it isn't as cursed as some of the other ones we've talked about so far. Empagliflozin is an anti-diabetic medication used to improve glucose control in people with type 2 diabetes. Empagliflozin is used to reduce the risk of cardiovascular death and heart failure for adults with type 2 diabetes, and an established case of cardiovascular disease. When we look at the structure of empagliflozin, it kind of looks like a sugar, except we instead have a chlorinated benzene ring. There's also another benzene ring connected to that one, and there's a tetrahydrofuran bound through an ethyl linkage to the second benzene ring. This isn't quite as cursed as some of the other ones we've talked about. In fact, I think that this one could even go right into F tier. This isn't too bad, and if you disagree, cool story, bro. Epibatidine is a chlorinated alkaloid that's secreted by the Ecuadorian frog and poison dart frogs from the Amarega genus. Epibatidine is toxic, and its toxicity stems from its ability to interact with nicotinic and muscarinic acetylcholine receptors. This probably doesn't surprise you too much if you're familiar with the structure of nicotine, as nicotine is a derivative of nicotinic acid, which is substituted in the 3 position of pyridine. Epibatidine also is substituted in the 3 position of pyridine, although there's also a chloro group in the 6th position. The nicotinic and muscarinic acetylcholine receptors are involved with the transmission of painful sensations and in movement, among many other functions. Epibatidine is able to cause numbness and eventually paralysis. Doses are lethal when this paralysis causes respiratory arrest. It was originally thought that epibatidine could be useful as a drug. However, because of its unacceptable therapeutic index, i.e. it kills people, it's no longer being researched for potential therapeutic uses. Epibatidine is cursed because it looks a little bit like nicotine, it looks a little bit like nicotinic acid, but it's got a bicyclic group as well as a chlorine. This one isn't too bad. For that reason, I think we can put it right into D tier. We have many fans of carrot chemistry on the channel, and that's because we've talked about chemistry that carrots can do before. Valcarendiol is another chemical that comes from carrots. The roots of this chemical originate in the carrot. Valcarendiol is a polyion, meaning that there's lots of alkynes in a row. It's known to have antifungal activity. This is the main chemical that's responsible for the bitterness of carrots. In addition to the two alkynes that it also has a terminal double bond and another double bond within the structure. Two double bonds in a row in a natural product is very strange, and it's in carrots. They're everywhere. We have diions in our fridge right now. So since this one's pretty cursed, why don't we put it into A tier? Okay, so we have 4 molecules left. Why don't we talk about feprocidinine? Feprocidinine is a stimulant drug which was developed in the USSR in the 1970s. It's structurally similar to another Russian drug called Mesocarb, which we have right here. Unlike Mesocarb, feprocidinine was withdrawn earlier from production. In comparison with Mesocarb, it has its own antidepressant activity, which makes it useful in treating depression. Indications of feprocidinine include apathetic, asthenic depressions, fatigue, apathic syndrome, narcolepsy, and other similar conditions. Feprocidinine has multiple mechanisms of action, although the relative importance of these has not been clearly studied. Some of the effects on the body include reversible monoamine oxidase inhibition, cholinergic, adrenergic, opioid, and nitric oxide donating actions, all of which may contribute to its pharmaceutical effects to some extent. When it comes to feprocidinine, I think feprocidinine is a little bit less cursed. I think it's fair if we put it right into B tier. In comparison with Mesocarb, Miso Jar Jar Binks, Miso your humble servant. Mesocarb has its own antidepressant activity, which I hope this video also has for you. Feprocidinine is almost like Mesocarb. Mesocarb just has a little bit of extra cabbage sticking off of it. Mesocarb is definitely more cursed. I think Mesocarb belongs in A tier. Miso belong in A tier. We have 2 molecules left. Why don't we talk about Timolol? Timolol is a beta blocker medication taken either by mouth or also used as eye drops. As eye drops, it's used to treat increased pressure inside the eye, which can occur in ocular hypertension and glaucoma. When it's taken by mouth, it can be used to treat high blood pressure, as well as chest pain due to insufficient blood flow to the heart, to prevent further complications after a heart attack, and to also prevent migraines. Timolol has a number of cursed functional groups, such as a terbutylamine. This is a rather obscure thing to see in a drug, as well as this thiazole. Thiazoles are pretty cursed looking. You have these 2 imines that are connected through a single sulfur. What the heck is going on there? Plus, we just have an extra little morpholine group here just for extra measure. Timolol, pretty cursed. I think Timolol can go right into S tier. Last but not least, we have Hipposudoric acid. Hipposudoric acid is a red pigment found in the skin secretions of the hippopotamus. Although the secretions are often known as blood sweat, which is where the name Hipposudoric comes from, are neither blood nor sweat. It's been both widely and falsely reported that Hipposudoric acid colors hippo milk pink. This is not the case. Hippo milk is white or beige in color. It's also worth noting that recent findings suggest that your mom produces hipposudoric acid.
Are you making fun of my mom? You're making fun of my mom! No one makes fun of my mom!
This compound's found in hippos. The reason that it's fairly cursed is because it's got these 2 benzoquinone-like motifs. Here we just have a hydroxy group instead of a double benzophenone, but it's a tricyclic bis-benzoquinone, and it also has a couple pendant carboxylic acid groups. Hipposudoric acid is pretty cursed. You know, I did just insult your mom, so I guess we better put this one into S tier as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed this tier list of cursed molecules. If you have any cursed molecules you'd like to suggest for a future tier list, make sure you leave them in the comments, or alternatively, you can share your cursed molecules in that Chemist Discord. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.